This video contains spoilers for Amphibia Season 2. If you want to watch this cartoon on your own accords, then please do so and come back to this video. Otherwise, thank you and enjoy.
Welcome to Amphibia. I've made the point before that I genuinely prefer Disney's Amphibia over their other popular show, The Owl House. I'm not an active fan, but I'd fancy myself a bit of an Amphibia enjoyer. I don't think Amphibia is a masterpiece, but it's definitely an alternative I would tune into if there's nothing else I like on Disney Channel, or Disney Plus for that matter. It's got charming characters, clever writing, and a nice background soundtrack in spite of its broken mystery and hit-and-miss jokes, but I still prefer it over The Owl House any day. So today I'll be looking at Amphibia Season 2, which recently came onto Disney Plus on June 4th, 2021. Now Season 2 initially premiered on July 11th, 2020, but I wasn't into the show during that time, and plus, who the hell watches TV nowadays? Now I heard some pretty rough things about Season 2, from the finale being delayed and the war between this and the Owl House community. I don't really condone hatred towards the Owl House, but I do think Amphibia is no more than 2 times better than that show, and I do feel it gets less love than Disney's newest cash cow. So with all this out of the way, how is Amphibia Season 2? Let's find out. This is Amphibia Season 2. So Season 2 is where the story of Amphibia truly kicks into high gear as Anna and gang set out to the city of Newtopia to seek help from the mighty king himself. So now it's up to Anne to seek help from the king, her friend Marcy, and get back home, all while getting into some wacky shenanigans and discovering such dark secrets along the way. One of the things I wanted after Season 1 of Amphibia was adventures beyond the town of Wartwood, and Season 2 delivers its world building really well. Season 2 gives an intriguing look into the world of Amphibia and its brand new, weird, and lovely inhabitants, and it comes with the development of the mystery this time as the show progresses, which is built up very well and leaves the viewer begging, though I feel like some of the teasing should have been gone since it all kinda spoils the antagonist, who I will go over later. It's as riveting as the first, and so is the contents. Amphibia Season 2 is... I always found Amphibia enjoyable at first, but not really enough to make me more interested. I gave it flack for not having a soul, but now after watching Season 2, I can officially say that I refute that statement. Amphibia Season 2 is a great continuation and a surprising improvement over the first season. It's full of fun and lighthearted soul that actually did something that no other show I've seen on this channel did. It actually made me a fan. I can't believe I said that out loud, but yeah, Amphibia finally made me a fan of the show. The animation is a real step up, and while it's the same basic movements as I've said before, it actually sprinkles little bits of effort here and there, but where it shits the bed the most is its ending, which I will go over later. And the backgrounds look pretty nice, with some of my favorites being the Coral Caves, the King's Castle, and the Frobo Factory, which gives off a Breath of the Wild vibe. Another thing I like about the backgrounds is how Anne's human world contrasts Amphibia with its dull color palette. It's something interesting that I never appreciated in my initial review of the show. Another thing I didn't appreciate in my initial review is the pacing. For a show that runs 11 minutes per segment, Amphibia sure knows when to take its time, and while The Owl House did the same thing, it really drags on with its unlikable characters and painful writing. The pacing of Amphibia is what made me think of it as a casually enjoyable experience, and Season 2 carries that philosophy really well, allowing the audience to get used to these characters as well as take a break from the main mission and enjoy the world building. The continent of Amphibia is such a whimsically creative world of frogs and flies, and it's one of the things I wanted more of in Season 2, since they never really expanded much of it beyond the town of Wartwood. In Season 2, well, they deliver, giving new environments and enemies, new characters, and the almighty king of Amphibia, who I will go over later, just you wait. One thing I like about Season 2 is that there's more standalone episodes dedicated to characters besides Anne, like Sprig and Polly together, Hop Up doing a detective parody, and an episode dedicated to Maddie and Marcy. It's a really nice and interesting way to spice up the show. The reference game also continues in Amphibia, which were one of the things I appreciated about it, giving new references to stuff like Black Widow, Super Smash Bros., and even a full episode dedicated to a Gravity Falls parody, while also adding in some more obscure references here and there. Still no Battletoads reference, unfortunately. Another thing that has improved in this season is the background soundtrack, which I never mentioned in my first review since I usually don't talk about music when talking about cartoons, but Season 2's soundtrack is a lot more varied than Season 1, with written songs that are pretty catchy and even an overhaul to the credit song. The writing also feels better in this season than beforehand. It actually got some good laughs out of me, and the mystery is actually expanded on more in this season. Another thing I start to notice is how dark the humor is in the show. I'd say Amphibia's humor is much darker than the Owl House. The best thing to compare to is, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Gravity Falls. It really does well presenting such dark humor in a wacky, lighthearted way. I also like the more emotional moments in this season, like Anne leaving Newtopia, because it's moments like these in the story that actually feel earned. Because Anne established a neighborly bond with Amphibia's inhabitants that make it all feel earned, and really strong. Now don't get me wrong, the stuff I thought sucked about Amphibia still sucks in Season 2, particularly the development of Sasha and Captain Grime. One of the things I didn't like about Amphibia was Sasha and Grime's relationship because we don't really spend a lot of time with them, nor do we witness further Sasha's growth as a character. In Season 2, while they do get a few more episodes dedicated to themselves, it leaves much of their development to be desired. Which honestly sucks because Sasha and Grime have such a fun dynamic with each other, and all their action scenes together are some good fun. Grime is also a lot more interesting in the season as he becomes more like a conqueror with a heart of gold. The mystery is also built up rather well in the season, which while it is a good thing, it kinda spoils the outcome and the villainous twist. Amphibia Season 2 also introduces some new characters, and one thing that sucks is that we don't get enough time to know them, like Marcy, Anne's third friend and a well-respected member of the Newtopian infantry. She's nerdy, oblivious, and well-skilled in Newtopian techniques. She's also really fun and somewhat of the glue that holds the team together, as she's the reason the team even got here in the first place. There's also General Yunnan, who's honestly my least favorite character in this season because I completely forgot she even existed since she barely appears in the season, if at all. She's kinda wasted potential if I'm being honest. There's Lady Olivia, who I also forgot existed. Frobo is also kinda wasted potential, honestly. He's a robot frog built in the ruins of disaster. An automatode, if you will, that was built up in the beginning as some sort of threat following the heroes, yet this was resolved a little disappointingly. And then there's King Andreas, the mighty king of all Amphibia. It's a bit too early for me to judge him, but I'm just gonna say it. King Andreas is a great villain. King Andreas is essentially what Emperor Belos should have been. In fact, both of them are eerily similar. He starts out as a curious, humble king, yet as the season progresses, you discover that he's a mighty conqueror of worlds serving a malicious, multi-eyed god, and so he needs the music box to invade all realms and bring Amphibia back to its former glory. A very desirable motivation. While he sounds exactly like Belos, Andreas beats him out of the park because he's actually competent, he poses such a great threat against the heroes, he takes a strong beating unlike that little Emperor Bichos, he's well established, and he actually made me feel upset over a death, not once, but twice. If there's one thing I can criticize about our legendarily large lad is that the mystery and build-up kinda spoils his reveal as the villain. Like, I knew it the first time he was on screen he was gonna be the bad guy. But I feel he's established more to the audience, but not the characters, as the bad guy, and I think that might work in his situation here. Plus he's got a great rumbling voice done by Keith David, which is infinitely better, and he stabbed a literal child on screen. Did Emperor Belos stab a child on screen? I don't think so. The voice acting of Amphibia is also real nice. Fun fact, Marcy is voiced by Haley Haley Chu, who also played a young London Tipton in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Anyway, as Marcy, Haley does a real good job hammering Marcy's nerdy personality really well.
Who are these cuties? Are they your surrogate frog family? Did they find you and take you in? Oh, I love the found family trope! Gosh, this is just like the hero of my favorite game, Vagabondia Chronicles! The greatest JRPG of all time. Have you played it? Do you want to play it? Do you want to borrow it? Just say the word and I'll lend you my copy. Man, it'll change your lives! The
standout of all the voices of the season is King Andreas, voiced by Keith David, famous for roles such as the Cat and Coraline and Dr. Facilier in Princess and the Frog. As I've mentioned, David's King Andreas has a really booming voice fit for a Titanus ruler that makes him real fun to watch.
Oh, etiquette schmetiquette. Ooh, and what do we have here?
Hey.
You must be Anne. Sup? Am I saying it right? Sup?
You got it!
The thumb of approval! And here's a thumb for you, Anne.
Oh, right back at ya.
Delightful! But now, let's get down to business, shall we?
So overall, Amphibia Season 2 impressed me and actually made me a fan. Hell, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the thing. You can't stop me. Despite some developments leaving to be desired, Amphibia Season 2 is a great follow-up as it expands its world a lot more, has an interesting villain, nice jokes, a charming demeanor, a nice background soundtrack, and altogether, it's all I wanted out of a Season 2 of Amphibia. Let's open the gates to the kingdom of the finale. So once our heroes reach Utopia, Anne is reunited with her good friend Marcy, who's changed quite well in Amphibia, and so after driving out ants and completing a scavenger hunt, they are welcomed by the large and humble King Andreas, the mighty king of all Amphibia. He asks our heroes regarding the music box, to which he suggests to study the non-glowing gems on the box, and he lets our heroes have fun with his credit card. What follows is our hero having fun in Utopia, such as Sprig exploring a hotel, Anne and Polly going through an alley market, Sprig going to school, Anne and Sprig in a shopping derby, and much more. King Andreas reveals that his people use the music box to explore other worlds, and in order to reactivate the stones, they must pass through several temple trials to go home. So after going through an aquarium, the planters go back home, and Anne initially stays until she bails out and says goodbye to Marcy and returns to Warpwood, while Andreas has other things in motion. The planters go home, the planters tell scary stories, and Anne seeks the music box to go to the first temple, revealing that Hoppa buried the music box to keep Sprig and Polly safe, since their parents were eaten by giant birds. They head out into the first temple deep in the brain forest the next day, and so after puzzle solving and playing Amphibia's version of chess, they activate the first stone, also revealing more of Andreas' scheme. Marcy tries to impress the town, Polly befriends Frobo, and Marcy helps Maddie with sibling struggles, all in the town of Warpwood.
Do you ever think it's weird when the main characters aren't in an episode? You don't miss them.
Then they head off to the second temple located in the mountains. Remember that weird lizard lady from the Bazaar? Well, it turns out she leads our heroes through the trials and gives Anne half of the charged blue gem. Meanwhile, Sasha and Grime attempt to unite the Toad Towers of Amphibia to take over the world, but in order to do so, she needs to claim Barrel's warhammer, lodged deep into a giant narwhal worm. To which she successfully does, but to the sacrifice of her two toad friends. Anne and Co head out to the third temple, which leaves the frogs hilariously dehydrated, and so with the help of Sasha, they take the red gem of strength. Anne hangs out more with Sasha this time as she convinces her to change, all while being deceived. The next day our heroes participate in the Battle of the Bands and sing a new song, No Big Deal, which is actually pretty good, though what bothers me most is that Anne's singing voice sounds like it's not Brenda's song at all. No offense though, because the song is still good.
It's no big deal, yeah, no big deal. I feel at home in a place that shouldn't be real. Killer birds, but it's no big deal. Riding snails, but it's no big deal. Eating flies, but it's no big deal. Finding me, and it's no big deal.
So after winning and taking a good selfie, our heroes return to Utopia, to which Sasha enacts her plan of taking over Amphibia. She locks Andreas in the dungeon, and Sasha attempts to send our heroes home, but to no avail. Our heroes escape and enact a plan to set Andreas free. Meanwhile, Sasha receives a new blade and discovers the true plan of King Andreas. Anne fights Sasha, and Grime fights Sprig, and they successfully close the gate and save Utopia from total domination. They give the box to Andreas, to which he reveals his true intentions. As it turns out, his kingdom was once truly great until the music box was taken, losing his legacy. With the music box, Andreas' tad goal is to conquer all worlds and bring forth a new glory age to Amphibia, and I assume serve the will of his dark god. And so he activates his castle and his robot army, and even destroys Toad Tower. Marcy steps into which she tells that she made a deal with the corrupt king to keep the trio's friendship together, and sent them to Amphibia. On purpose. So after a bit of arguing and taking in this revelation, Anne stands up to the mighty king. The final battle ensues between Anne and friends and the mad King Andreas, to which he draws out a lightsaber. They fight against Andreas' Automatoad army until Frobo's down for the count, then Polly goes down until she sprouts legs. She then puts these little legs to good use as she manages to reach the music box, but then Andreas catches Sprig in his firm grasp. They put the music box back, but then he drops Sprig to the world below. A real heart destroyer of a moment, I will say that. And then, in what is possibly the best animated scene in the show so far, Anne absorbs the blue power of the music box and goes full Super Saiyan God mode and beats the ever-loving shit out of Andreas. Andreas takes the beating real hard and her powers fizzle out. Marcy uses the music box and our heroes head home, until it's too late.
Now look what you've made me do.
Damn, no wonder Sprig gave me that warning at the beginning of True Colors. And so, it ends with Marcy saying sorry and Anne returning home, bringing the end of part 2. The end. True Colors is amazing, and I can definitely see why the Amphibia community hyped it up for so long, but there's just this one little blemish that I can't help but not ignore. Number 1 question. Why? Why the Super Saiyan God mode? I'm pretty sure there was a big fat reference, but before I watched season 2, I was expecting a bunch of Chosen One bullshit, which I think would have made the story dumb and hard to get invested in, but I'm kinda surprised that it didn't happen. Yet how exactly does Anne have any sort of connection to the powers in Amphibia, other than her friendship with the locals? Did the people of Amphibia even know the existence of mankind before the arrival of our trio? I believe in my Chosen One theory judged by the mural in the intro, which shows 3 distinctly human-looking figures, and Anne and Sasha's eyes have glowed on a few occasions. Regardless of lousy storytelling, I liked True Colors very much. It has great emotional moments that hurt me because of how much time we spent getting to know our characters, it was well paced, and an excellent antagonist, and great action scenes. Overall, I really liked Amphibia Season 2 way more than I expected. Despite its weak developments, it holds well thanks to its improved world building, charming and whimsical characters, impressive villain, clever writing, enjoyable soundtrack, and is overall what I come to call the Shrek 2 of Amphibia. Hell, I'm just gonna say it, it's everything the Owl House could have been. The fact that Amphibia is less popular than the Owl House and somehow is better than it is honestly kinda depressing. Right now, Amphibia is in production of its 3rd season, which has a finished theme song and is set to premiere sometime in fall 2021, with news coming soon to Comic-Con as of the writing of this video. Judging by the theme song, it looks real interesting, with our heroes taking a break in Anne's world while Andreas continues his schemes and building a Mecha Marcy of sorts. Now where have I heard that before? My biggest hope for Season 3 is that I hope Amphibia doesn't die on top of its own grave like Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Steven Universe, and Infinity Train. Because after seeing Season 2, I now realize that Amphibia has an identity. Its identity is delivering charming adventures in a terrifyingly weird world, while also not forgetting its messages of change, friendship, and accountability. I do hope Amphibia will end on a high note, and some questions I have be answered, because I am good and goddamn serious when I admit that Amphibia is better than the Owl House in every way, and at least deserves half of its popularity. For right now, I'm going to rate Amphibia Season 2 an exquisite 8 out of 10. A hippity hoppin' hooray.